Hi, this is Tutor Nick P, and this is Proverbs 211. Proverb today is the blind leading the blind. Okay, let's take a look at the note here. If a person says that a situation is a case of the blind leading the blind, he or she is suggesting that a person who is teaching, leading, or guiding another person is equally as ignorant, so they don't know what's going on either. So it's like the blind leading the blind, like a blind person leading another blind person. That's kind of the idea behind it. If two people were blind, that would be a problem. So let's continue. The origin of this proverb comes from the New Testament, Matthew 15:14, and Luke 6:39. So remember, with the New Testament, that's when the four different apostles often told life story about Jesus. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were the four, but both Matthew and Luke repeat this story, and those are the numbers in the New Testament where you could find this story for both of them. According to the story, the disciples tell Jesus the Pharisees were angered when he criticized their transgressions against God's commandments. All right, so now the Pharisees, they're kind of like the rabbis of the day, or the leading Jewish religious leaders of that day who, were telling people that they need to follow strict Jewish law. All right, and he was saying, Jesus was criticizing them, saying that they, those Jewish leaders were not following God's commandments, their transgressions, either their sins or going against those. So the disciples were telling Jesus that those Pharisees were angered when Jesus said that. Jesus answered, let them alone, kind of like leave them alone, don't even bother with them. They be blind leaders of the blind. Both shall fall into the ditch. Yeah, ditch is like a hole on the side of a road, where the water runs down. So that's what they're saying. So like the blind leading the blind, they'll like lead you off a cliff, or they'll lead you into a ditch, where you both fall down. So if you're following a person who is blind, or a person who's just as ignorant as you, or, doesn't really know anything, if you're following the wrong people, it could lead you definitely into the wrong way, or possibly into trouble. All right, let's continue. And we got 3 examples of how we would hear this used. Why did you ask James to help you solve your computer problem? He doesn't know anything about computers. That's like the blind leading the blind. All right, this is a typical way we may use it. Or number 2 here, that news station intentionally, meaning on purpose, reports fake news stories. Watching them is like the blind leading the blind. Well, you think you're watching the news, but, they're often telling stories that are not really quite correct. All right, number 3 here. You are trying to teach him to dance, but you are a terrible dancer. That is like the blind leading the blind. So this is very typically the way we would hear this proverb used. Okay, anyway, I hope you got it. I hope it was food for thought. And, if you like these sort of proverbs that I do, there'll be more coming. So I'd appreciate if you could give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.